The rumble of the Tesla Model S cut through the evening stillness as William Harrison passed through the automatic gates of his estate in Greenwich, Connecticut. 4 days in London, finalizing a multi-million-dollar acquisition deal with a British streaming conglomerate, and all he craved was a hot shower and holding Oliver close. The mansion appeared unusually quiet for a Thursday at 5:30. William switched off the engine and gazed at the property through the windshield. 2 stories of contemporary architecture, manicured lawns stretching toward ancient oak trees, an infinity pool reflecting the dying sunlight. Everything precisely as he'd left it, pristine as always. Victoria insisted on maintaining everything flawlessly, befitting our social standing, as she frequently reminded him. He grabbed his leather briefcase from the passenger seat and walked through the 3-car garage toward the side entrance. That's when he heard a sound that made his heart race uncontrollably. It was a child crying, but not the ordinary tantrum of a frustrated kid. This was pure anguish, as if someone was losing the most precious thing in their world. William followed the sound around to the garden's eastern wing and froze completely. The scene before him would haunt his memory forever. Oliver knelt on the flagstone patio, his small hands dirty with soil and debris, frantically digging through the household recycling bin. Tears streamed down his flushed cheeks as he tossed paper after paper aside, searching for something with the desperation of someone racing against time. His prep school uniform was completely soiled, his tie askew, his knees scraped raw against the rough stone. "Oliver, son, what on earth are you doing out here?" William rushed toward the boy, panic flooding his chest. What kind of game was this? Why was his son rummaging through garbage like some... The thought died before he could complete it. The little boy raised his swollen, reddened eyes, his nose running, and through broken sobs managed to say, "Daddy, you came back." He tried to stand quickly but stumbled over his own feet, falling back to his knees. "Daddy, Miss Victoria threw them away. She threw away the most important things. I have to find them, Daddy. I have to find them before the garbage truck takes them away forever." William knelt beside his son, trying to understand why an 8-year-old would be so frantic over household waste. The smell of decomposing organic matter rose sharply from the overturned container, but Oliver seemed completely oblivious to it. "What things, Oliver? What did Miss Victoria throw away?" The boy wiped his nose on his shirt sleeve, a gesture Victoria always criticized harshly, and whispered with a trembling voice, "The letters to Mommy and my family drawings. She said they were rubbish, but they're not rubbish, Daddy, they're not." His eyes filled with fresh tears. "Mommy told me it was really, really important to keep the letters safe." William felt as though he'd been punched in the stomach. "What letters, son? Mommy can't write letters anymore, you know that." "No, Daddy, the letters that I write to Mommy, every single day, telling her about school, about my friends, about when you travel." Oliver's voice cracked entirely. "I promised her I'd be the best boy in the whole world. I write every night before bedtime, and now she's going to forget that I love her." The world seemed to stop spinning around William. Rebecca had died exactly 7 months ago, victim of a drunk driver on the Merritt Parkway. Since then, Oliver had become a quieter, more withdrawn child, but William attributed this to the natural grieving process. He never imagined his son had been writing daily letters to his deceased mother. Before he could ask another question, Victoria's sharp, impatient voice echoed across the garden. "William, thank goodness you're home. For heaven's sake, Oliver is making an absolute mess out here." The woman approached with determined strides, wearing an expensive Lululemon athletic set, her platinum blonde hair perfectly styled despite the late afternoon hour. Her steel blue eyes showed barely concealed irritation as she surveyed the scene of scattered papers and disturbed earth. Oliver immediately cowered when he saw his stepmother, like a frightened animal trying to hide behind his father. The movement was so instinctive, so loaded with genuine fear, that William felt something unsettling stir in his chest. Victoria sighed dramatically and placed her hands on her hips. I explained to him at least 12 times today that I disposed of that pile of yellowing papers that was collecting dust in his bedroom, ancient letters and meaningless childhood scribbles. She looked at William with an expression mixing exhaustion and superiority. Oliver needs to stop clinging to the past, William. He's 8 years old. He must learn to process his grief and embrace our new family dynamic. But Daddy, Oliver tried to speak, but Victoria cut him off with a harsher tone. No buts, Oliver. You cannot go digging through trash like some vagrant child. What will the neighbors think? What sort of upbringing are you receiving in this household? William felt something deeply troubling grow in his chest, watching his son shrink further and further into himself. Oliver had always been a joyful, talkative, energetic child, but over recent months, especially since the wedding to Victoria, he seemed quieter, more frightened, more diminished. "Mummy told me never to let anyone throw the letters away," Oliver whispered, looking directly at his father with those large, scared eyes. "And she told me not to let the mean lady—" He stopped abruptly, as if he'd said too much. The silence that followed was deafening. "What did Mummy tell you, son?" William asked gently, completely ignoring Victoria's furious glare. Oliver shook his head rapidly, as if regretting his words. "Nothing, Daddy. I forgot." Victoria approached the boy and grasped his arm firmly. "Come along, young man. Bath time. You're absolutely filthy from this disgusting garbage." Her voice attempted maternal warmth, but there was an underlying coldness that William had never noticed before. "And enough of these ridiculous stories about Mommy. She's in heaven and cannot speak to anyone down here." But Oliver clung to William's leg as if his life depended on it, trembling from head to toe. "It's not a story, Daddy. I swear to God it's not a story. Mummy really did talk to me." "When, son? When did Mummy talk to you?" "In my dreams, Daddy. She comes in my dreams and talks with me. She says she reads every letter I write. She says she's proud of me, and... The boy couldn't form the words properly, only cried harder with that kind of weeping that comes from the deepest part of the soul. William lifted his son, feeling the small body shake with an intensity that went far beyond ordinary fear. This was terror, real terror from an 8-year-old who was clearly experiencing something much more complex than he had realized. "Victoria, we need to talk," William said, his voice taking on a tone she rarely heard. The same tone he used to close million-dollar deals. "Of course, darling, but first let's get this child cleaned up and—" "Now, Victoria, we need to talk right now." The tone brooked no argument. Victoria stepped back slightly, sensing something different in her husband. William carried Oliver into the house, whispering in his son's ear, "Daddy's going to figure everything out, okay? You don't need to be afraid of anything." But as he climbed the staircase toward Oliver's bedroom, one question hammered in his mind. What kind of man had he become that he failed to notice his own son suffering in silence for so long? And more importantly, what exactly had been happening in his own home while he was traveling the world closing business deals? At the doorway to Oliver's room, William stopped and observed the space with fresh eyes. The bedroom was immaculately organized, far more organized than any 8-year-old could maintain alone. There were no drawings on the walls, no creative chaos, no life pulsing through that space. It was the bedroom of a child who had learned to live in silence. And William Harrison, executive director of one of the country's largest communications companies, finally realized he had failed at the most important communication of his life. Understanding what his own son had been trying to tell him for months. In the bathroom, while helping Oliver clean himself, William observed every detail of his son's behavior with attention he hadn't shown in months. The way the child avoided looking in the mirror, how his little hands trembled while holding the washcloth, how he mumbled something under his breath that William couldn't quite catch. "What are you saying, son?" Oliver stopped mumbling and looked at his father with wide eyes as if caught doing something forbidden. "Nothing, Daddy. I was just talking to Mommy." William felt his heart constrict. He sat on the edge of the bathtub and pulled Oliver closer. "Tell me about these conversations with Mommy." The boy hesitated, glancing quickly toward the bathroom door as if afraid someone might be listening. "She comes in my dreams, Daddy. But it's not just a dream, it's real." Oliver's voice was barely above a whisper. "She taught me how to write the pretty letters. She said I have to write neatly because she reads every single one." "And where do you hide these letters, Oliver?" "In the secret mailbox, Daddy. Come on, I'll show you." After the bath, Oliver led William through the garden to a rose bed at the far end of the property. There, hidden among the roots and protected by small stones, were dozens of baby food jars, each one carefully sealed with electrical tape. William knelt and opened the first jar. Inside, he found small rolls of paper, protected from moisture by plastic sandwich bags. He unrolled one of the letters and felt tears burning his eyes. The handwriting was meticulously neat, every word written with childish care. "Dear Mommy, today at school the teacher asked about families. I said, I have the most beautiful family in the whole world. You, me, and Daddy. I didn't mention Miss Victoria because you told me in the dreams that she's not really part of our true family. I love you so much, your son Oliver." "How many letters have you written, son?" "One every day since Mommy went to heaven, Daddy. That's..." Oliver counted on his fingers. "Lots and lots of letters. Mommy said when I grow up, she'll give them all back to me." William opened another jar, then another. Each letter revealed a piece of Oliver's soul that he hadn't known existed. The boy wrote about nightmares he was having, about missing Mommy's hugs, about feeling confused when Victoria spoke badly about Mommy, about wishing Daddy would spend more time at home. One letter in particular made William's hands shake. "Mommy, Miss Victoria said you don't love me anymore because now she's the new Mommy. But you told me in the dream that's a lie. You told me you'll always love me and I should keep our love safe in my heart. I'm keeping it safe, Mommy. I'm keeping it really, really safe." "Oliver," William called with a choked voice, "tell me more about the dreams with Mommy." The boy sat on the ground next to his father, hugging his knees. "She comes every night, Daddy. She sits on my bed and talks with me. She says she's okay in heaven, but she misses us. She says you're very sad, and that's why you work so much." Oliver looked directly into his father's eyes. "Is that true, Daddy? Are you very sad?" William couldn't answer. Yes, he had been devastated since Rebecca's death. And yes, he had buried himself in work to avoid thinking about the pain. But he never realized this escape was affecting Oliver. "Did Mommy say anything else?" Oliver looked nervously toward the house, making sure Victoria wasn't nearby. "She said Miss Victoria doesn't really love me, that she's just pretending." His voice became even quieter. "And she said I have to be careful because Miss Victoria wants to make you forget about Mommy and about me too. That will never happen, son, never. But Daddy, you married her really fast. Mommy said you were scared of being alone, and that's why you didn't think it through." William stopped breathing for a moment. The observation from an 8-year-old had gone straight to the heart of the matter. He really had married Victoria just 5 months after Rebecca's death. At the time, he justified it as better for Oliver to have a mother figure. But the truth was, he couldn't bear the loneliness and emptiness of the house. "Oliver, does Miss Victoria treat you well when Daddy isn't home?" The boy began playing with pebbles on the ground, avoiding his father's gaze. "She doesn't like my letters. She says it's silly, and that big boys don't spend time thinking about dead mothers." Oliver swallowed hard. "She told me if I don't stop writing to Mommy, she'll tell you I'm a troubled child and you'll send me to boarding school." William felt a cold anger growing in his chest. "She said that exactly?" "Yes. And she said she threw all the letters away for my own good, so I would learn to be normal." Tears returned to Oliver's eyes. "But Daddy, I don't want to be normal if normal means forgetting Mommy." In that moment, William understood the scope of what was happening. Victoria wasn't just being insensitive to Oliver's grief, she was actively trying to erase Rebecca's memory from the boy's life. And worse, she was doing it through psychological manipulation and threats. Son, do you have more letters hidden in other places? I do. Oliver brightened slightly. In my room, under the mattress, I have the most special ones. The ones that Mommy writes back. William raised his eyebrows. What do you mean, she writes back? Come on, I'll show you. Back in the bedroom, Oliver lifted his mattress and revealed a yellow envelope hidden between the mattress and box spring. Inside were letters written in different handwriting, an adult woman's script. William picked up one of the letters and immediately recognized the penmanship. It was Rebecca's. My precious Oliver, Mommy is always with you, even though you can't see me. When you feel lonely, look at the stars and know that one of them is me, watching over you. Always be the wonderful boy that you are. I love you forever and always. Mommy. Oliver, where did you find these letters? Mommy left them hidden for me, Daddy. There's one under my bed, one behind her picture, one inside the storybook. Oliver's eyes sparkled. She knew she was going to heaven and left the letters for when I would miss her. Reality hit William like lightning. In the final days before the accident, Rebecca had been acting strangely. She said things like, if something happens to me, and make sure Oliver knows he's loved. At the time, William thought they were just late postpartum anxieties or general worry. But Rebecca had somehow sensed that something might happen, and she had left letters hidden throughout the house for Oliver to find over the months. How many of Mommy's letters have you found? 19, Daddy, but I think there are more hidden. In the dreams, she gives me clues about where to look. Oliver smiled for the first time that day. It's like a treasure hunt of love. William hugged his son, finally understanding the extent of Rebecca's wisdom. She had created a system to continue talking with Oliver even after death through the hidden letters. And Oliver, in his innocence, had turned this into a real dialogue, writing his own letters in response. Daddy, Oliver whispered in his ear, you won't let Miss Victoria throw away Mommy's letters too, will you? Never, son, never. But even as he made that promise, William knew he needed to make a very difficult decision. Victoria clearly didn't understand, or worse, didn't respect Oliver's emotional need to keep his mother's memory alive. And if she had lied about throwing away his letters, what other things might she be doing when William wasn't home? That night, after Oliver fell asleep, clutching one of Rebecca's letters, William went downstairs for the conversation he knew was inevitable. Victoria was in the living room, watching television and sipping white wine. When she saw him, she smiled with that expression he had once found charming, but now seemed forced. How's Oliver? Were you able to calm down his little drama? The way she referred to his son's desperation as little drama was the final straw. Victoria, we need to discuss Oliver and us. She immediately sensed the serious tone and muted the television. Of course, darling. What's wrong? Why did you throw away the letters Oliver was writing to his mother? Victoria sighed, as if the question were childish. William, that child is clearly struggling to process his grief. Continuing to feed fantasies about communicating with dead people isn't healthy. I was trying to help him move forward. Move forward by completely erasing his mother's memory. That's not it. But he needs to accept that Rebecca is dead and that I'm his mother now. This obsession with letters and dreams is interfering with our new family dynamic. William studied the woman before him and wondered how he had been so blind. Victoria wasn't trying to help Oliver. She was trying to replace Rebecca completely, erasing any trace of her presence in the boy's life. Victoria, Oliver is 8 years old. He lost his mother 7 months ago. It's normal and healthy for him to want to keep her memory alive. It's normal to a point, William. But when a child prefers living in fantasies rather than accepting reality, that becomes a psychological problem. The psychological problem is a stepmother who threatens a grieving child with boarding school for processing grief the only way he knows how. Victoria paled. He told you that. He told me everything, Victoria. Everything. The silence that followed was tense and revealing. Victoria didn't deny it. didn't try to explain, didn't show remorse. She just quickly calculated how to handle the situation. "William, you're being dramatic. I simply mentioned that children who can't adapt to new families sometimes need specialized help. It wasn't a threat. To an 8-year-old, it was exactly a threat." William stood and walked to the window, looking out at the garden where Oliver had spent the afternoon desperately searching for his letters. "Victoria, I made a mistake." "What kind of mistake?" "Marrying you." The words hung in the air like an irreversible verdict. Victoria remained motionless for several long seconds, processing what she had just heard. When she finally reacted, it wasn't with sadness or pleading, but with fury. "You're making a terrible mistake, William. Because of the delusions of a traumatized child, you're going to destroy everything we've built?" William turned to face her. "What exactly have we built, Victoria? A home where my son is terrified of his own stepmother? A household where his mother's memory is treated like a mental illness? I brought stability to your lives. When we met, you were completely broken, William. You couldn't even properly care for Oliver. I organized this house. I established routines. I brought order to the chaos your lives had become." It was true. In the first months after Rebecca's death, William had been utterly lost. He didn't know how to make the meals Oliver enjoyed, couldn't help with homework effectively, had no idea how to handle the constant questions about when Mommy was coming home. Victoria had appeared like a lifeline. And I'm grateful for that, Victoria. I truly am. But stability cannot come at the cost of my son's spirit. "His spirit?" Victoria laughed with disdain. "William, listen to yourself. The boy needs boundaries, structure, someone to help him live in reality, not in fantasies about dead mothers speaking through dreams. Those fantasies are how an 8-year-old processes the most devastating loss of his life. And instead of supporting that, you're trying to destroy it. I'm trying to create a healthy environment where he can accept me as his mother." The confession came out more directly than Victoria intended. William immediately grasped the core of the issue. "Ah, so that's it. You're not concerned about Oliver's well-being. You're jealous of a dead woman." "Don't be ridiculous. You're jealous because even dead, Rebecca is still more important to Oliver than you are, and that bothers you profoundly." Victoria stood up abruptly, knocking over her wine glass onto the Persian rug. "Of course it bothers me. You married me, William. You promised we would be a family. But from day one, it's like I'm a stranger in my own home. You two live worshipping the memory of someone who isn't even here anymore." The mask of composure had finally fallen. William was seeing the real Victoria for the first time. "And what was your solution? Completely erase Rebecca from Oliver's life? Make an 8-year-old forget his own mother?" "It was to make him accept a new reality. Children are resilient, William. If you don't feed his obsession with his dead mother, he'll naturally attach to me." Listening to you speak, it's clear you never understood anything about being a mother. Motherhood isn't a competition. A true mother would never try to erase another mother's memory from a child's heart. "True mother?" Victoria's voice rose an octave. "I'm the one here every day. I make the meals, drive him to school, organize the household. Where was the true mother when Oliver needed her? She died and abandoned you both." William felt rage so intense he had to restrain himself from shouting. "Rebecca didn't choose to die, Victoria. It was an accident, but even dead, she's being more of a mother to Oliver than you are alive." "How can you say such a thing?" "Because she left letters hidden throughout the house to comfort her son in his grief. Because even though she's not here, she found a way to tell him he's loved. That's motherhood. That's unconditional love." Victoria fell silent for a moment, processing the information about the hidden letters. "So that's it? You're going to discard me over some old papers that a neurotic woman hid before dying?" The coldness with which she referred to Rebecca was the decisive moment for William. "No, Victoria. I'm discarding you because I finally realized you don't love Oliver. You see him as an obstacle to be removed, to have complete access to me. And a man who allows someone to mistreat his child doesn't deserve to be called a father." "Mistreat? I never laid a finger on that boy. Emotional abuse is just as destructive as physical, Victoria. You threatened a grieving child. You tried to erase his mother's memory. That's psychological cruelty. Victoria began pacing back and forth, clearly trying to find a way to salvage the situation. William, you're making a rash decision. You're emotionally disturbed by the garbage incident. Let's talk tomorrow when you're calmer. There's nothing to discuss tomorrow, Victoria. I want you out of my house tonight. This house is mine too. We're married. We have a prenuptial agreement, Victoria. You know that. The house stays with me, along with full custody of Oliver. William saw calculations running through Victoria's eyes. She was probably weighing whether it was worth fighting legally or accepting the separation. You'll regret this, William. That boy needs a mother figure. You won't be able to raise him alone, just like you couldn't before you met me. Maybe not, but I'd rather try and fail as a loving father than succeed by allowing someone to destroy my son's soul. At that moment, a small voice came from the staircase. Daddy? William turned and saw Oliver on the bottom step, clearly awake for some time. He was holding one of Rebecca's letters against his chest. Hello, son. What's wrong? I heard loud voices. I was scared. Victoria approached Oliver with an expression that attempted warmth. You don't need to be scared, Oliver. Daddy and Mommy Victoria were just discussing grown-up things, but Oliver instinctively stepped back and ran to William's arms. Daddy, is she leaving? The question came out with such clear hope in his voice that even Victoria looked visibly shaken. William hugged his son and decided to be honest. Yes, son. Miss Victoria is leaving. Forever. Forever. Oliver pressed closer to his father and whispered, Mommy told me in the dream this would happen. She said you would realize that I need you, not a mean lady. Victoria heard everything, and her expression hardened like stone. Perfect. You two deserve each other. Live in that sick fantasy. She grabbed her purse and walked toward the door. But when reality hits and you realize you can't be both father and mother, don't come looking for me. I won't come looking, Victoria. I promise. She stopped at the door and looked back one last time. And those letters I threw away, are you going to keep feeding this morbid obsession? William looked at Oliver, who was watching the conversation intently, and made a decision. No, Victoria, we're going to do something much better than that. After Victoria's departure, William sat with Oliver in the living room and finally had the conversation he should have had months ago. Son, Daddy made a very big mistake. What mistake, Daddy? I married someone without properly thinking about whether she would be good for you, and I let her make you feel bad for loving Mommy. Oliver played with Rebecca's letter in his hands. It's okay, Daddy. Mommy said everyone makes mistakes. What matters is fixing them afterward. Then let's fix everything, son. Let's fix it all. How? William smiled for the first time in a long while. How about we create a special place for all of Mommy's letters? A place where you can write to her whenever you want and keep all the letters she left for you. Oliver's eyes lit up. A place just for us. Just for us. How about we transform an entire wall in your room into a special memorial with all of Mommy's letters and all your letters to her? Can I write as many letters as I want? As many as you want, son. And we'll put them all on the wall so Mommy can read them from wherever she is. Oliver jumped from his father's lap and hugged him with all his strength. Daddy, that's going to be the best gift we could ever give Mommy. And William knew with absolute certainty that he was making the first truly right decision he had made since Rebecca's death. The next morning, William awoke to Oliver climbing into his bed, carrying a stack of letters. Daddy, I woke up early and wrote 3 new letters to Mommy. Can we start our wall today? For the first time in months, William saw genuine joy in his son's eyes. It was as if a light that had been extinguished was flickering back to life. Of course we can, buddy. How about we have breakfast first and then head to Home Depot? During breakfast, Oliver couldn't stop talking about his ideas for the memorial wall. He wanted to use colorful ribbons, golden stars, even tiny lights that would twinkle at night. Daddy, that way when it gets dark, the lights will sparkle and Mommy will know I'm thinking about her. William felt his heart swell with emotion. Son, do you really think Mommy can see the letters from heaven? Oliver stopped eating and looked at him with that gravity that sometimes appears in children who've experienced profound loss. Daddy, have you ever felt like someone was close to you even when you couldn't see them? Yes. Then you know how it feels. Mommy is always here, he said, touching his chest, and here, pointing to his head. The letters are just a way to talk with her. The boy's wisdom amazed William. Oliver had found a healthy way to process grief, maintaining emotional connection with his mother without denying the reality of death. At Home Depot, father and son spent 3 hours selecting everything they would need. William had decided to create something truly special. Not just stick letters on a wall, but craft a sacred space, a living memorial that could grow with Oliver through the years. They bought specialty paint that shifted colors with lighting, small frames for the most precious letters, a high-quality corkboard, satin ribbons in gold and navy blue, delicate LED string lights, and even a small shelf where Oliver could store special writing materials. Daddy, this is going to be more beautiful than a museum. Back home, William and Oliver completely cleared one wall in the boy's bedroom. It was the wall facing his bed, the first thing Oliver would see upon waking and the last before sleep. First, we'll paint the wall a special color, William said, opening the paint can that changed from soft blue during the day to deep blue with shimmer at night. While they painted together, Oliver shared stories about each letter he had written. This one I wrote on your birthday, Daddy. I told Mommy that you were sad because she wasn't here to sing happy birthday. What else did you write? That I sang to her in the garden at night, really quietly, so no one would hear, and that I lit a little candle in secret. William stopped painting. You did that? I did. It was the night Miss Victoria went out to dinner with her friends. I knew Mommy would like it. While the paint dried, they went to the garden to retrieve all the jars from the secret mailbox. Some were damaged by moisture, but most were perfectly preserved. How many jars did you hide, son? 28, Daddy, one for each week since Mommy went away. William calculated mentally. Rebecca had died exactly 28 weeks ago. Oliver had created a grief ritual so precise and consistent that even specialized psychologists would be impressed. Back in the bedroom, they began organizing the letters by date. William noticed that Oliver's handwriting had improved dramatically over the months. Look how beautiful your writing has become, son. Mommy teaches me in dreams. She says pretty writing is a gift to whoever reads it. They mounted the corkboard in the center of the painted wall and began arranging the letters. William created different sections. Letters Oliver wrote to Rebecca, letters Rebecca had left hidden, family drawings, and a special section for future letters. Daddy, can I make a section for you too? For me? For you to write letters to Mommy. Don't you miss her? The question was so direct and honest that William felt tears welling in his eyes. I miss her terribly, son. Then you can write too. Mommy will be happy. That afternoon, for the first time since Rebecca's death, William allowed himself to cry in front of Oliver, and he discovered that crying together with his son was far more healing than crying alone, hidden in his study. You know something, Oliver? You're much wiser than Daddy. I'm not wise, Daddy. I just love Mommy very much and don't want to pretend I don't. When they finished the basic wall, dusk was falling. William plugged in the small LED lights, and the result was magical. The wall glowed softly, creating a warm and special atmosphere. Now it really looks like Mommy can see everything, Oliver said, admiring their work. They held a small ceremony to inaugurate the memorial wall. Oliver lit an aromatherapy candle, the kind Rebecca had loved, and read aloud the first letter he had written. Dear Mommy, today Daddy and I made a special home for our love for you. Now I can talk to you whenever I want, and you'll never be far away again. I love you forever and always. Your son, Oliver. William also wrote a letter, his first in a long time. Rebecca, our son taught me that love doesn't die with people. I promise to take good care of Oliver and keep your memory alive in his heart. Thank you for leaving letters for him. Even after death, you continued being the perfect mother. I love you. They attached the new letters to the wall and stood in silence for a few minutes, simply observing the result. Daddy? Yes, son. Now our house feels complete again. In the following days, William noticed an incredible transformation in Oliver. The boy returned to smiling naturally, returned to playing, returned to asking questions about everything, but most importantly, he stopped having nightmares. Daddy, Mommy came in my dream last night and said she loved our wall. She said now she has a special place to live in our hearts. William established a new routine. Every night before bed, they spent a few minutes at the memorial wall. Sometimes Oliver wrote a new letter. Sometimes he just told his mother about his day out loud. William discovered this ritual also helped him process his own grief. 4 weeks after creating the wall, something special happened. Oliver found another hidden letter from Rebecca, this time inside a cookbook. Daddy! Mommy left another one. The letter read, My precious Oliver, if you're reading this, it means some time has passed since I went away. I want you to know it's okay to feel sad, but it's also okay to be happy. Daddy needs you cheerful and strong. You two must take care of each other. And if someday Daddy finds someone who truly loves you both, don't be afraid to love back. The heart has room for lots of love. Be happy, my son. Mommy. William read the letter several times, amazed by Rebecca's wisdom and generosity, even after death. Oliver, what did you think of Mommy's letter? I think Mommy is very smart. She knew you would be lonely and would need someone. But she also knew Miss Victoria wasn't the right person. And what do you think about maybe, someday in the future, Daddy meeting someone who is the right person? Oliver thought for a moment. If she's nice to me and doesn't want me to forget Mommy, that's okay. But it has to be someone who understands that Mommy will always be important to us. William hugged his son, once again impressed by his emotional maturity. Deal, son. If that ever happens, it has to be someone who understands our family and respects our history. 6 months later, the memorial wall had grown considerably. Oliver continued writing letters regularly, but now also included school drawings, photos of outings they took together, and even letters he wrote to William when he wanted to thank him for something special. Daddy, do you know what the best part of our wall is? What? It's that our family keeps growing, even with Mommy in heaven. Because love doesn't end, it just changes places. William realized Oliver was right. They hadn't just created a memorial for Rebecca, they had created a sacred space where family love could continue flourishing. And every night, when the small lights on the memorial wall twinkled in Oliver's room, William knew he had made the most important decision of his life, choosing unconditional love over convenience, choosing his son's genuine happiness over the appearance of a perfect family. Good night, Mommy, Oliver whispered every night to the wall. Good night, Rebecca, William also began whispering, and somehow they both felt she responded through the love that remained alive in their hearts. And you, who are following this story of love between father and son, please leave in the comments what city you're listening from. We want to know if this message about the importance of honoring children's grief and always choosing true love reached you. Share your own experiences about how you overcame family losses or learned that true love never dies. It just transforms. You are part of this great family that believes every child deserves to have their emotions respected and their love honored, regardless of circumstances. See you in the next video.